Well, Kajsa Ollongren is the Dutch Minister of Defence. She joins us from Singapore. Welcome to the programme. Firstly, if I may, the US and the Netherlands recently conducted bilateral naval operations in the South China Sea. How do you view the role of the Netherlands in the region?
Well, for us, it's of course important. It is about the freedom of navigation, the freedom of the seas, which is a basic principle, universal principle, and important also for trade. So the presence of our vessel here and also conducting joint exercises with the US, but also with countries from the region, demonstrates that commitment from the Netherlands to that principle. And it also shows, I think, the countries in this region that the countries in Europe are not only concerned with the war in Ukraine, but that we also feel that the security concerns in this region have to be addressed.
You do mention Ukraine there, and with President Zelensky actually at the event now, I mean, the Dutch government says it will forge ahead with an initiative to supply Ukraine with a Patriot missile system. But do you believe all NATO countries are in agreement with this?
Well, we are on agreement that Ukraine needs more air defense. We see the continued and increasing Russian attacks on Ukraine, on the whole country, also against civilian targets, against electricity and energy networks. So it is vital that they get more air defense. We know it's a scarce capability within NATO. And we have now taken a step forward and said we will deliver core components of the Patriot system. We are discussing this with various partners. I'm confident that we will be able to deliver a Patriot system, and I encourage other countries who have that capability to join in so that we can increase that. They're in dire need of this in Kharkiv and elsewhere. People are dying because of not sufficient air defense.
I'm going to turn to Gaza now. A few months ago, you called for a humanitarian pause in Israel's war on Gaza. Would you now call for a total and permanent ceasefire?
Yes, I think that was November when we called for a humanitarian pause. Since then, the war has been raging. And if you see the disaster in Gaza now, the humanitarian catastrophe that is going on, there is no other solution. The offensive in Rafah has to stop immediately, and there has to be an immediate ceasefire. And I think that the plans that are on the table right now, proposed by President Biden, are the basis for what is needed. This is not going to resolve anything. There is no military solution. There has to be a discussion about the two states, about a solution that is a real solution for people who are suffering now. So a ceasefire and a stop of this war is really what must happen as soon as possible.
And earlier this year, you visited Israel and had discussions with Israeli Minister of Defence Yoav Gallant, who referred to the meeting as an expression of the solidarity and friendship between our establishments and nations. Would you agree with him?
We try to speak to the Israeli government as we always also speak to the Palestinian Authority and to the countries in the region. But what I think is important is to continue to impress upon the current Israeli government and therefore also to the Minister of Defense what our perspective is. And our perspective is that the offensive and the war as they conducted in Gaza now is causing many casualties, innocent civilians, children, and that this is not sustainable. And I really urged Israel to stop this. Therefore, you have to have this conversation. And I think, yes, solidarity, yes, because the terrorist attack on the 7th of October, the hostages that have to be released, yes, of course we express solidarity with that. But we also express our deep concern for the situation in Gaza, our commitment to providing humanitarian aid. We have taken part in the airdrops. So it has many sides, but our main message now, as from many other countries, is the war cannot go on like this. It has to stop, and we have to have a two-state solution.
You mentioned casualties there. Earlier this year, a Dutch court ordered the government to halt delivery of parts for F-35 fighter jets used by Israel in its attacks on the Gaza Strip, saying there was a clear risk the parts were being used in serious violations of international humanitarian law. How would you respond to that?
We comply by the ruling. So the ruling says we cannot transfer parts for the F-35 from the Netherlands to Israel. And since the ruling, there have been no transfers. This is a warehouse that provides spare parts for F-35s to all countries involved. And we know that it's an important asset for Israel in general, for their air defense, as we've seen when the attack happened from Iran. But we comply, of course, by the court ruling. There is still another court that is still considering the case, and of course we will wait for the outcome of that court.
We have to leave it there. Kajsa Ollongren, we very much appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us here on Al Jazeera.
Thank you very much.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.